three-dimensional models, which is where my world is, and tie them into APIs and tie them, and it goes across the whole world. So this Open Geospatial Consortium is a international group working together in domain working groups to actually be able to have a common, consistent language, to be able to measure this piece, the hydrosphere. So again, trying to connect the dots here, and I apologize, it's a little bit fragmented. But to have a consistent language and a consistent measuring environment allows you then to go to, let me pull this up real quick to get this out of it. Okay, so this document, our strategies are a roadmap to being able to manage this sustainability conversation, and it's a pretty short document. And this is for the County of Los Angeles to actually be able to associate this language, this concept into local food, local place. So now we've made a connection between what the EPA is doing in terms of looking at this water management to address, or try to stick with me, to address urban agriculture with this stormwater management system, so that we would be able then to use the water from the stormwater system to actually feed the urban agriculture production cycle and understand the science that's associated with this in an urban setting. So rather than just look at a single plot of land in a garden house and putting up some raised beds and growing food like that, try to start to understand of the larger ecosystem that Richard was referring to and a methodology or a strategy. So this is this idea of being able to move from these, and I think there's 4 strategies here, measuring results, and this is on the waste cycle side of the equation. So that closed loop water system, when we look at waste cycle, it touches all of these components of waste as well as water, and this water table and waste management stream is totally connected. You can see right here where it's talking about plastics, and we can go in and recycle material. And all of this material science that then becomes part of our water table, and then if we want to look at bringing the water back out of the aquifer, we have to take into consideration that this is an organic system. This is a living system. Even in an urban setting with cars and asbestos and all of the waste products that come, they end up in the waste stream, and that waste stream is the stormwater system. So this concept, E7 Architecture Studio, is very connected to working with the City of Los Angeles, working with the Department of Sanitation and Environment, who's managing that grant, to actually look at how do we create a community empowerment project out of this bond implementation. And so therefore it becomes actually an educational environment. So last piece I just want to show you is when this gets more granularized, it becomes a mechanical system. So this mechanical system, Richard talked about a natural system, and I think I could bring this up here very quickly. This is the work that E7 has been doing in this space, and this was based on looking at, let me make this bigger for you guys. I think we can do this. You see that okay?
Yeah.
Everybody see that okay?
Yeah,
so this is water being used to actually heat and cool buildings. So these are called central plants, chilled central plants. So this is another application of being able to actually distribute the water. This has its ontology, and this ontology then was used to actually do a photo documentation. So we photo documented this facility, and then we associated those documents, those photographs, into actually models that we developed. So I'm going to go through this pretty quickly, but this is how we were able to capture a very sophisticated central plant fairly quickly, and then be able to develop a three-dimensional model to look at its operational control down into the actual pieces of equipment. And the reason that this is important is because these are how water plants operate, and the Department of Energy, federal government, state government is looking at these waste plants and asking the waste plant to reduce their energy demand, to lower the carbon footprint, and to be able to do that, you have to be able to understand what's called the preventative maintenance cycles. So you have to know when do I actually replace this component? And these are the conversations that we're having in several cities across the United States, because these are integrated systems. And so having your inventory granularized at this level of component then allows you to do preventative maintenance and operational and optimization. So now they're able to say, to run this water treatment plant, this is the amount of energy that's needed. These are the number of gallons that are being cycled through the plant. This is what the waste cycle looks like, and that's the operational model. So moving it from where I started, watershed conversation, into waste management, from waste management into operational management. This then gets into this IFC International Foundation class. This is a nomenclature language, and that language is needed to run smart cities. And so this thinking that E7 has been developed and been super supportive of is, how do we build a society that moves from advocacy, concern, to actually participatory? And we can simplify it to some level. But at the end of the day, if we're going to move this conversation into a tool like an AI tool, and I have one other piece I'm going to show, if we're going to move this into something like that, then we need to understand at this level how these loops and how these concepts of being able to heat and cool buildings, process water, and process food. So we're working with a group right now in Baltimore, and they're looking at what's called a RAS, recirculating aquatic system to actually grow fish in a closed loop space. Well, this is really what you're going to get to at the end of the day. You're going to operate that as a plant or as a manufacturing cycle. And so getting that optimized to where Richard started the conversation, to really understand what natural systems are and how natural systems work, includes all of these concepts of hardware. So I call this the hardware, and then the last piece I'm going to show you. So these are more examples here of how we documented the equipment, how we associated the equipment with the website. So just like I showed you the hyperlink. Now this data is constructed ontologically accurate to the OGC compliance. And then this allows us then to build larger systems and maintain larger systems. So rather than everybody doing things their own way, we start to understand how information technology underlays a lot of the sophistication necessary actually to be able to manage these water infrastructures. So I'm not talking about how water as a science works. I'm talking about the water infrastructure. So what the next thing I wanted to show you, and again I apologize, it's a little bit fragmented, but this is also really important in what we're trying to do. So this is an article that was just published on the Mayan civilization on how they purified water. So I just walked you through 21st century technology. And this is my own personal kind of quandary about my work, is that this is a civilization at least 2,000 years old, 1,500 years old, the Mayan civilization. They had very sophisticated understanding of everything that I've talked about so far. They understood the chemistry, they understood the geology, they understood the topology. They obviously had some kind of understanding of mineral science, and they were able to put together this whole concept of how this civilization operated, including their reservoir, including their distribution system. And I just find things like this super fascinating, because it really brings you around to the idea of what are you learning, what are you investigating, were there previous cultures and civilizations that understood this a lot better, and how do we move our civilization into a larger sensibility of what clean water. And this is very interesting because they understood that if they didn't do this to the water supply chain, they would actually have many, many people dying, and it would have been a real disaster. So they were into the biomedical concepts as well in terms of its relationship to health. So this little glimmer, if you will, brings it to the last piece I'm going to show you, which is something that Richard's been talking about, and I teach this as part of my class with these middle school and high school kids, is how to use one of these psychrometric charts. And these psychrometric charts are the way to actually measure and indicate based on what's called weather files and how weather files work. So these are data points for what the weather condition is at any time of the day. And again, I should probably put this down so you can see it a little bit better. Fix that. So this is some studies that we're involved with right now, and this is close to Baltimore, where actually it's Camden, where we're doing some investigation on this RAS system. But the point of this is that you can get the weather data for specific locations. I did this for Saskatchewan. This will tell me how much radiation is coming in, not this particular graph, but this then tells me this relationship between the dry bulb temperature, the wet bulb temperature, and this idea of condensation, which is what Richard is talking about, being able to condense the water vapor by cooling in the liquid, so bringing it to the condensation level, or what's called the heat. So these psychrometric charts, this blue square here, and this is all moisture. This is all exactly what Richard talked about, but this is the science behind the moisture. And so this is called the human comfort zone. So if you want to bring people into this human comfort zone, then you need to understand what the weather patterns are, whether it's, and this you can do at different times of the month, so you can select a specific month, and you can say, I just want to see it for the month of February, and these are the data points for the temperature range and the humidity. So these are the humidity curves as well. And then this tells you here what you need to be concerned about in terms of what's called the architectonic or the architectural form, so that you can take a passive approach to actually developing that envelope. So putting a hydropod or one of these growing structures anywhere, it's not the same thing. So that's where Richard talks about the instrumentation in its operation. So I showed you a little bit about that instrumentation narrative. So again, I apologize. It's a little bit fragmented because there's a lot of stuff here. This is chapter 5 of the VCAP. Chapter 2 of the VCAP's looking at that utility infrastructure, underground infrastructure. So connecting these systems together so that they actually are able to operate as a system that addresses this natural phenomena of moisture content, where Richard did a really good job of explaining weather and what weather is. So that weather, the nexus between air, water, and energy, is the space that really architecture exists in, and that these envelopes that we're building are trying to address that relationship.
Mm. Wow, all right. That
Okay.
was very enlightening about, just the overview that we can get from this approach of big data.
Yes,
It's,
mega.
um, I was thinking to show that graphic, which focuses in on the micro level. So what
Yeah.
happens inside the structure?
Yeah.
I said it's the same thing happens outside, in kind of the ecosystem. I don't know if I haven't shared screen before.
Or you want me to share my aspect, and then you join, share yours.
You
So
know that?
you were the first one to share, right, in this conference, because I missed the first part.
Yeah, we've started.
Okay,
Myself
you
and
presented
Michael.
your aspect,
Yeah,
and then Michael.
I want to show that
Okay.
schematic of the plants inside and the cooling.
Yeah.
Oh, I actually have that image. Let me get it for you.
Oh, okay, yeah. If you
Yeah,
could show
just
that,
give me 1 second.
we'll
Okay.
talk about that, because that goes to the enthalpy, the amount of moisture in air, how that is working. So we create kind of a micro.
I think that, is that it? Do you see it?
Yeah, that's it. Zoom in on it a little if you can.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no problem.
Brother Michael
Yeah.
Rindler, Brother Ron, Brother, how are you guys doing today? This is Sir Bailey in Los Angeles. A beautiful conversation.
Hello.
Yes, yes. Hey, Aubrey.
Yeah.
Sustainability. Thank you as always, Brother Andrew. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm about to start a service here at McCarthy Memorial Church. I was riding with Tyreek English, a student, just recent graduate from Free LA. He's really engaged in the conversation. We're super excited. But I have to log off, and I just wanted to share
Okay.
thoughts that came to my mind from
Yes.
Mr. Rindler and Mr. Nelson. Mr. Nelson's sharing in terms of the shade and of greenery reminded me of 1 Kings 19 and the prophet feeling alone in his struggles and being given a rest under the juniper tree.
Yeah.
And under the juniper tree being fed, and just the cool of the juniper tree and that. So it's beautiful. And Mr. Rindler's really took me to, I was listening to a service on my way to pick up my student before this started, and just thinking about the Dead Sea and prophecies in, I believe it's Zechariah 14, in terms of the waters of Jerusalem feeding out to the world.
Yeah.
And that the topography of the Dead Sea needing to change in order for that to happen. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to enlighten us on a lot of what we're discussing and what we're doing, being in concert with the Creator, and still
Yeah.
things coming to pass that we have no idea of, but being thankful, being grateful, and being prepared for it. Everybody ought to know about Ken Saro-Wiwa out the Congo, how to beat poverty out like a bongo. Thomas More said, think big over 500 years ago. That's a basic income guarantee. Can't we see air and water are free?
I like
money
that.
for wars, but no money for poor. Fuck bombs and tanks, put money in people's banks. Our youth know the truth about thoughts and things. They ain't crazy. Transform the Waldorf like Banksy. I said our youth know the truth about thoughts and things. They ain't crazy. Transform the Waldorf like Banksy. Thank you for allowing me to share.
Thank
You
you.
could keep up the good work, family.
Yes. That was.
Man,
That's
you.
good.
Thank you.
Love you so much, Sir Bailey.
Yeah. All right. Well, so what we're looking at on the screen now is what is not really taught, often, even in horticultural. Kind of, looking really at plants and the phytomechanism of plants. So what we're looking at is the cooling, the way the plant is cooling. So you see a plant there, image, it's in the sun, it's getting the full radiant, heat and light of the sun. And what's it doing is in an equilibrium, okay? Everything in nature is in an equilibrium.
Yeah.
So that means that the plant already knows what to do.
Yeah.
The plant is in a balance with the sunlight.
Mm-hmm.
The sunlight is not overwhelming the plant, right?
Yeah.
The plant has all of the resources that it needs.
Yeah.
So one of the resources is photosynthesis. It's going to grow. It's going to utilize the photosynthetic radiation.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the radiation, it's converting to latent heat of evaporation.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what you see coming away from the plant.
Right.
Is water vapor.
Mm-hmm.
So the water vapor, H2O, is in the air.
Yeah.
And it's not saturated. Okay, it's
No.
at a relative humidity.
That's right.
So the relative humidity has to be also in equilibrium with the plants.
That's right.
The plants can't grow in a saturated environment. So in other words, the water vapor has to disperse,
Yeah.
move away from the plant,
Mm-hmm.
dilute into the atmosphere.
Right.
Or what can you do is condense it. So when we're inside a small structure like a pod, right?
Yeah.
It's relatively small compared to the great outdoors, certainly.
Right.
So what we have is a contained environment,
Yeah.
right, where the water vapor cannot escape, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So the water vapor would accumulate and would reach a high humidity, and that would be detrimental to the equilibrium, except for the cooling. So what we're doing, you see that liquid film,
Yeah.
the big blue arrow at the top there, and it's so it's allowing water to flow over the top side of that building envelope. Okay, the inner skin. You see, there's an outer skin and an inner skin, and that is the SolaRoof. Okay?
Yeah.
That is what is SolaRoof.
Right.
This technology.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're doing is we're cooling that inner skin, which is quite thin.
Yeah.
It's a thin material. It's a glazing. It's a plastic film.
Yeah.
Or coated fabric. And so with that liquid film, we control the temperature.
That's right.
Of that inner skin.
Yeah.
So the temperature is regulated to be the dew point.
That's right.
And it's always at the dew point, right? It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
warm up, okay? Because the condensation will create heat release
Yes.
heat, latent heat.
Yeah.
But that latent heat is absorbed and carried away, and you see the liquid film grain.
Hey, Richard. Hey, Richard. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I've been studying this a little bit, and I'd like to have a little conversation around
Sure.
this because that blue stripe that you show there, the laminar film carried in SolaRoof,
Right.
okay, on the outside, and I've talked to a couple people about this that have greenhouses, and so and I've shown this to them, and so what they've told me is that they're always way hotter on the inside than the outside. And so this is my question, is as the mechanism operates, that water where you say liquid film in, that liquid is eventually going to get really hot, because that radiation from the sun on the outside is going to actually start to heat the air cavity. I call it an air cavity. I know it's not. It's filled with bubbles. But it's going to fill that air cavity, and then the inside's going to get very warm by definition. And I was trying to explain that based on this condensation model, you would be able to use that dew point to extract heat out of the interior. And so that equilibrium that you're describing, somewhere that radiation heat has to dissipate, because I understand how this could work in very cold climates to optimize, but I was trying to figure out how this would work in very warm climates where it's equally necessary, so that you still have the containment of the water vapor, so it doesn't just evaporate like your example.
Okay, let me answer your question, and the very simple answer is that the liquid coming in is always at, let's say, 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, if the inner let's say the inner atmosphere, the volume air in the building is at 80 degrees in the middle of the day, at the peak of the sunlight coming in, insolation, and we keep the liquid film at a 60 degrees, so we have a delta T of 20 degrees Fahrenheit.
But
And we
to
will,
keep that, do you have a heat sink somewhere where you're
Yeah, yes,
transferring that?
exactly.
Yes, heat
Just-
sink.
just consider that the liquid we're drawing from is an infinitely large, by comparison,
Got it.
thermal mass. Now, if that
Okay.
was the case, right, then the liquid will always come in at 60 degrees. Now,
Understood.
you have the Pacific Ocean just within reach, of
Yeah.
90% of the population, and we know we can have these district liquid cooling that costs almost nothing,
Yeah.
using just the thermal energy of the salt water, right? Not the we don't consume the water. We take it from 1,000 feet and we pump it around and it goes
Well,
back.
I,
right?
I, I
It goes
just,
back.
I just wanna share with you that central plant that I identified.
Yeah.
They're using chillers, and it's pumping 350 gallons a minute of water through our science building. So these numbers and these capacities of these systems, and I liked how you try to get to a numerical model, because without a numerical model, we really don't have anything. So those capacities to move the water, and my presentation was around stormwater. So we're moving in Los Angeles, we're moving all that water back to the sea, and then we're processing it through Hyperion processing plant, and then we're pumping it back into the city with a purple pipe system. So we have a recirculating system now within the basin of Los Angeles.
Right.
And so now we can quantify the energy needed to actually move those types of capacities of water in terms of energy. So now we've converted that formula, what you just described for cooling, and being able to get a heat sink, whether it's a earth mass or whatever it is, to try to stabilize temperature. But see, our temperatures in Los Angeles aren't that extreme. But I'm trying to think of like, there's a big, huge development going from Victorville to Las Vegas, which is across the desert. And they're gonna build 5 major cities along that I-15 corridor. And I'm trying to get the high-speed rail system to really talk about how do you build those communities net zero and local food source. And that's where I see all this work having great, great potential. So those are the thinking that I'm trying to say, okay, how do I bring the science into this conversation?
Yeah, and this really works, but it's also really simple. So, of course, we won't actually have an infinite thermal mass, but we'll have a thermal mass large enough that it will warm up just maybe 2 to 5 degrees during the day. Okay, 2 to 5 degrees during the day. It'll warm because it's not huge, right? It'll change its temperature.
Well, I think I made a comment on that, Aubrey, before, about putting that tank under his structure is not a piece of cake, and that's almost like building a swimming pool. And so I've tried to make that point in your original diagrams. It's one thing to talk about the extruded aluminum and the film. Quite another thing to talk about excavation and retention and some of those other things to make the tank. And so,
okay, let's not get into the details because we've got so many people in.
Well, I won't get into the details, Richard, but honestly, I get documents from Mr. Andrew Williams that have budgets on them. And me as an architect, I have to get to the detail to get the budget, a level of detail. And that's where if I don't do that, I don't know how to say, it's pretty good. That I can, unless I've done it 10 times. If I've done it 10 times, then that's a different thing.
Well,
we'll work through it with you, in the next week or so. But what I'm trying to look at here is just the relationships. The earth and water is our heat sink. And it is sufficient in this world. and it operates in the world, and it can also operate it in our constructed environment, right? Our built environment.
That's right.
Can model what's happening in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And as you mentioned, the radiant energy during the daytime is all coming toward the liquid film and will be absorbed, right? All the thermal energy. But at night, we can also circulate. And during the day, we can fill that cavity space with the bubbles, and they operate together. So yes, we keep the high thermal energy, conductive energy from the atmosphere, from the surrounding hot environment. We can keep that isolated more so, and we also can reject some of the heat energy, but some of that heat energy, it won't go directly to the liquid cooling film, but it will be absorbed by the liquid bubbles.
Yeah.
Right? So or some of it can be re-radiated or just refracted, right, back into space, like a
Yeah.
cloud. So the bubbles are like a cloud cover. In an area where there's no cloud, we manufacture equivalent of a cloud. And it does backscatter, and it does decrease, and it does insulate. So those are advantages during the day, a very hot day in a very hot climate. And then at night, you have no cloud.
That's right.
So then you have the radiant cooling
Mhm.
available to very dry, very cold night sky.
Yeah.
And we can do the reverse. We can radiate from the SolaRoof
That's
to
right.
the sky.
Yeah.
And that will chill our liquid reservoir.
Mm-hmm.
So during the day, we have a gradual warming, which is still within the equilibrium comfort zone.
Yeah.
And during the day, during the night, we have a reverse cooling. And
Mhm.
all of that's driven by what we call ambient thermal exchange.
That's right.
So we're not intervening with any compressed cycle cooling or
Mhm.
mechanical system. It's
Yeah.
basically
A
just
natural process.
absorption and then a release.
That's right.
And how do we get that absorption and release? Is working with the processes of the living system. The plants are
Yeah.
the only way
Yeah.
to convert the radiant energy into the latent heat, right? No other process known to man
That's
or
right.
man-made could do that job.
Yeah.
But the plant kingdom can do it for us.
Mm-hmm.
And while we're doing it, don't forget, we're condensing that clean water.
Yeah.
That's pure water. You're building osmosis plants and other kinds of seawater processing.
Mhm.
And here you have this clean water collected every day, and it's quite a good quantity, while you're growing the food. So
Yeah.
you're getting about 10 times the amount of clean water produced, harvested, as you will of food to consume.
Yeah.
And so you have a throughput and a cycle of water use that is a closed and regenerative system, while what we see in the world, right, outside,
Yeah.
is a linear system of water consumption.
Yeah.
Right? Water supply, water consumption, water pollution, and then some simple loss of the water. And we have the problem is to provide the source of water. The sources are being depleted, so we don't have an effective recovery. So we're basically mining the water as it's not regenerated. So it
Mhm.
becomes a resource that is not renewable, in effect, by the climate around. So this intervention is a way to create closed cycle use. It
Yes.
does not consume water.
Yeah.
Right?
And I would also use the term toxifying the water table.
Yeah, that
So
too.
I think that, it's not just mining it, it's
Yeah.
toxifying it in the process. That's one piece of it. And the other piece of it is it's not scalable. I mean, that's the reality, that
Good.
tapping into the mine is not a scalable solution. We need to do a closed loop system. And
Well,
it's important.
we forgot about the localization is better than centralization. I like
Right.
to, yeah,
Absolutely. So I have a question. What is the size of this example to collect 10 liters per?
Okay, so what you're seeing there is like a portion
Mhm.
of the glazing or the building envelope, and let's say it's 1 meter squared. Because see that 10 liters per square meter, that's per square meter of solar
Collection,
sunlight, coming through, right? The
whatever,
envelope.
whatever size.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So a bigger building, like we would have
Right.
maybe 1,000 square meters in a certain size of PyraPOD, and in that PyraPOD we'd have 1,000 square meters of growing space because we're multi-level. And so I think in a rule of thumb, whatever you have as growing space, like plant growing, you would have approximately the same envelope. And so you could calculate, 10 liters times 1,000, so you have 10,000 liters. This is a lot of water.
Yeah. No, because I keep saying I'm looking for a solution for my Zimbabwe project. And they've done their consultation with the community already. They want to do a victory garden, and they're focusing on aquaculture. But their biggest issue right now is water, which obviously the first response is we'll build a well. Well, I've done a bit of research, and wells are not necessarily the answer they're looking for. There's lots of issues around it. But if you can put this whole idea of solar energy and water and plants, and it makes sense for that community.
Yeah, people will ask, well, why build a greenhouse-like environment in a warm place? And this is the reason.
Yeah.
The reason is that we recover the very, very valuable transpired water, right? And so you can drink it, you can use it for cooking, you can use it for cleaning. Whatever you use it for, you don't pollute it, okay? You don't put any toxic material. If you're gonna have cleaning material, they have to be organic and, not biocompatible always. And so all of that water can come back as gray water, and it can go directly to the plants, right? Plants can use the gray water for growing. And in fact, we use that water really first, usually as a makeup water for the fish. Fish need of clean water throughput, even in these, what we call these recirculating aquaculture systems. They do have makeup water requirement. So they're reducing the quantity of water that's consumed, but that makeup water is a consumption. Here it just comes back, right? And the plants are creating a sufficient daily processing of water to come back into the cycle, and we can intervene and drink it and use it ourselves. And then of course we have to take all the urine, we have to take all of our waste as well into this system, ideally, right? These would represent water losses. So you have water losses if you're exporting the fruit, right? The fruit contains water, so you'll have to have that replacement. Yeah, you'll have to have some replacement water.
Right. So to envision the project, a greenhouse will go to cost for this. A greenhouse can be built to do the aquaculture, and the gray water can be used for outside, for example, because it's a hot climate, to water the plant.
Yes. We certainly we intend that these pods fit in, right? And to say a greenhouse is to say, well, it doesn't. What we need here is a big step change in what we think of as architecture, right? The architecture of a greenhouse, the architecture of buildings. So my 6 patents define a new kind of building envelope and a new architecture with the transparency, with the liquid bubbles, with the liquid cooling, with the closed environment, with the liquid thermal mass system, and with the materials technology and structural technology as well. So that's the whole package. That's the open source know-how that we urgently need to bring to the attention of the world, because it is a whole different, greenhouse is not your solution, because it actually has a higher energy intensity. It has higher everything. You look at all of its issues, and they're only really magnifying the issues that we see in agriculture. What we're creating is a closed environment. Okay, call it closed, controlled, ecological environment.
Hey,
Right.
Richard, I think just to clarify this one piece, down here where it says water in crop irrigation,
Yeah.
that can actually be the gray water. So
Yes.
I think that's the genius of this is you can feed the gray water back into this loop, and then
Yep.
on the other side where
Yeah.
it says water out, that water has
Very-
been purified, so to speak. So now the
Yeah.
plant is acting a little bit like the liver with the blood. It's
Yeah.
actually removing the toxins through this transpiration process. So when she says they use the gray water outside, just for clarification, if the loop is built properly, the waste cycle actually moves back through the greenhouse.
Well, yes. You know, there could be situations where when you grow this way and you're conserving water, as you say, you know, by reusing it, that then you can use a smaller or the quantity of water that you can consume. Using it outside is a supplement, you know, and if you have it, it's not a problem, you know, to use it. But what you're doing is you're reducing the total demand. So let's, for example, come back to your very large scale analysis. In California, 70% of all water used is for agricultural, and it does consume the water, so it leaves the urban population without 70% of the water. The water is either simply consumed or it's polluted. So it is becoming difficult. You have this conflict between the urban, between people, and agriculture. When we grow this way, we're not consuming the water, we're reducing water consumption hugely, okay? It's like some people say, when you go to hydroponics, you reduce the water consumption about 20 times. Well, when you go closed atmosphere, you again reduce the water consumption, because when they talk about the water reduction with hydroponics, they do not include the transpired water.
That's right.
The transpired water is always being lost in this other system, right?
So is there a price range, or I would like to you guys to help me with my project.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Sure.
And look, what we're doing is water working. So you know, water does not cost you. You know, water becomes expensive when we don't have it. Yes, when we're depleting it. But let's say in ordinary circumstances, water is not something you're going to pay big bucks for, right? So the cost is, what we're doing is we're creating low-cost solution. The cooling water the cooling system is water use. The hydroponics and the aquaponics is water use. The bubbles are soap solution with water. So it's all water loose. Look at the use. Look at the Aztec and Mayan and many other civilizations. Their golden age is when they know how to use water. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, water is abundant, and in this system becomes abundant again, right? So therefore, not costly.
Okay, well, offline, we won't talk about it now, but I would like to do a pilot project, sort of giving a agricultural, environmental solution. And Zimbabwe could be the start, but I have other projects that are starting to grow food, and you know, you always need to have at least an example to say because you're going to learn from it and evolve, right? That's just how life is. So how interested are you guys to help me with that?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
I will do that. Actually, Joan, I just wanted to point out that this is the whole reason why I wanted the pilot project in Prince Edward County with Richard and with Renia and with Brian.
Right.
I really, really, really wanted Richard to do something in Prince Edward County, and I was hoping it would happen. It didn't happen.
I wanted it too,
hoping we
Lloyd,
could do
because
something else in Ontario eventually, but
well, the thing
I
is
think
that
it was just a matter of you needing to understand what this is all about.
I wanted all the good examples of Canadian examples so that we could then go and say,
we're here.
Canadians are so
We're here.
trusted, but you just have to go with what's happening, right? Like,
yes.
You know what I mean? Like,
real example,
It's unfortunate that Prince Edward County fell through. Maybe we'll get back there at some point.
Yeah.
But
So, who is the
whatever's in
host?
front of us.
Do I have a few minutes to present, what I prepared? Because it's kind of a catch up, just to make, simplify
Yeah,
everything.
we're good on time, Aubrey. As a matter of fact, this is perfect timing. Just to let you know, we're transitioning now from our first segment dealing with water,
Okay.
and this is like 10:23. So this is perfect timing for our planning session. So yes, short answer is yes. You can make your presentation now, Aubrey. Thank you.
I can? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, just go over, just make it, this is what I prepared. Let me share my screen first. Share my screen. Maybe I've touched something that already other people, shared, but let me do this. Okay. This is what I prepared. Start with, water, right? So we know water is very simple. Everybody knows the structure. One oxygen and two hydrogen atoms. And so the interesting thing is we just quickly go through. Everybody already know, but let's go over the facts. Okay, there's some interesting facts about water. I put this facts the first because this is something actually the SolaRoof technology works. Let's just go over. It's basically water has to absorb large amount of heat, right? It's 1 calorie, but if you want the figures, it's 4184 joules of heat. For the temperature of 1 kilogram of water to increase 1 degree. Okay, this is critical, and the same is true for its reverse process in releasing heat. So, for comparison, it only takes 380 joules of heat to raise 1 kilogram of copper for 1 degree. Okay, so this is the critical fact about water. It's a super super heat sink. You can call it a super super capacitor. Anyway, that's something I like you to focus on. And also we need to know that there's two kinds of water all over the world: salt water and fresh water. Okay, so I believe we're talking about the fresh water today. The other thing is the frozen water, that is the ice, is 9% lighter than liquid, right? That's explain why ice flows. And it is also the only substance on Earth that exists naturally in 3 forms: liquid, solid, and gas. See, these 3 forms, or three phases, it's very important, to regulate, the energy, thermal energy on Earth. And also this fact, 1 trillion tons of water is evaporated every day by the sun. Okay, this is actually the evaporation, and also in the micro scale, that's the transpiration, within the plant. But this is something we have to know. Trillions of water. Okay, it's a basically the whole Earth is a living system. So I can understand Michael is talking about the systematic, the mega scale, right? If we talk about mega scale, we have to know that nature is already have a mega scale. It's huge, living system and running every day without us recognizing it. So and also, if you ever catch a fever, let's be sure to drink lots of water. We all know that, right? Because it regulates your body temperature. Okay, so that's why we need to to use water to do a lot of things, and now I'm in Canada, so let's talk about facts about water in Canada. In Canada, there's more water underground than on the surface. Okay, and most of the water found on the Earth's surface is permanently frozen or salty. Okay, so that means less than 1% of the water supply on Earth can be used as drinking water. Okay, 1%. So and also we need to look at this fact. More than 90% of the world's supply of fresh water is located in Antarctica. My pronunciation. Antarctica, yeah, the South Pole. Okay, so this is also important, So we need to learn all the facts, right? And then we should, we learn why we need to solve the climate issue, locally. And also, this is already mentioned. The Earth is a closed system that rarely loses or gains actual matter. So that means essentially the same water that exists on Earth millions years ago is still present today. Well, to this point, I'm not sure. Okay, but there's something to consider. And also, pure water has no smell, no taste, and its pH level is around 7. It's neutral. Okay, it's neutral. And come to Canada. Canada is home to 25% of the world's wetland. Okay, in fact, it's the largest wetland area in the world. So for that reason, I like the fact that that Richard Nelson is a Canadian citizen. So Richard Nelson, you should do something here before you go to China. Okay? As a Chinese Canadian, I want you to do more work here. Okay? And to make Canada the center of the world. I mean,
and as a South Asian and Jamaican.
Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, everywhere. Everywhere. We'll fly everywhere. Just buy airplane for us, and then we fly everywhere. Okay. No, we'll pay our own airplane. So our bodies, okay, this is interesting also. Our bodies 60 to 70% of water. Okay, our brain 75, our lungs nearly 90%. Okay, talk about COVID-19. You have to consider water. Okay, for that reason, I have a bottle of water purifier in my hand, but later on I can show you. I already prepared a 50-gallon tank over there in our house, in the near the kitchen. So because I like to use the Chinese medical ingredient to purify the water. Okay, so if we suppose we have COVID-19, I like to drink that water. Nothing else, just that water. I'm not going to go through the Western. I won't go to the hospital. Okay, so just to show that that using water, if you can do something with water, then you can cleanse your lungs. If your lungs having problem. Anyway, that's coming to the second point, which is the why we use this double layer. By the way, I'd like to comment on what Michael mentioned. Because you mentioned that someone tell you that the problem with greenhouse, the conventional greenhouse, is too hot, right? Indeed, I up till now I still have the conventional greenhouse, there outside. I can prove, everybody can prove, right? It's too hot. It's the problem with conventional greenhouse is too hot in the summer, too cold in the winter. You see, the two extremes. It's not something we want. So for that reason, Richard Nelson's technology of creating a double, double skin, double wall, cavity, and then fill the cavity with bubbles. Okay, and that solved the problem. By creating a layer just like that, we switch the extreme to our optimum condition, which is we can create an envelope which is warm in winter and cool in summer. So that because of what? Because of the fact we are using the water as the super heat sink. Okay, so we use water, and in this case, it's not regular water. It's water, dispersed water. Okay, it's not vapor water. It's not liquid water. It's something in between. Only you create a water form. I will even call this water form the fourth phase of water. Okay, we know water has the liquid, right? The vapor, that's solid. I think what Richard Nelson is doing is create a dynamic, but it's also controlled number four phase of water.
So Aubrey, I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
I agree with you. We had at our garden, we had a greenhouse, and you're right.
Yeah.
Right? It was so hot, like in the winter it was cold, but in the summer, it was unbearable.
Oh boy.
And we also had
50 degrees Celsius. Yeah.
I mean, I actually liked it really hot, but my husband was anyway. But it was even too hot for me, and I love heat.
Yeah, sure.
In the summer, in the winter, the extreme wasn't as bad as the extreme of the hot. It was cold, but not the extreme of the cold, because we also had some. So my question is,
yes.
Has any, and so what we found that the plants suffered because they went from one extreme to the other.
That's right. Yeah.
And so we ended up, being very careful about when we planted.
Yeah.
Has anything been grown in these pods?
In this pot? Yes.
The
reason I'm asking,
Richard, now, Richard.
Yeah, let me jump in and answer. You see, these pods that we're talking about now are vertical farms.
Yeah.
But for 40 years, I've been doing this technology. So I've grown it in my backyard. I've grown it in a research station that I built. We built 6,000 square feet at McGill. We have many other projects. In Oslo now, they have 15,000 square feet.
Yeah, well, you so talk, I can share some screen.
Yes, there's lots of experience, and that's called plant response. You look for that first.
I'm really, really excited about it, because I really think, one, I'm looking for a solution for my many projects, but I really think if we could have a Canadian data to present rather than just a showcase example, I think it could be a really good seller. And I like the fact there's a number of things I like. Obviously, it solves the issue of energy and food and extended weather. But I also think that, and cost effective, I'm thinking, maybe. But also, it's more an ecosystem than it is just one solution. And no, I'm really, really excited about it. I really want to get going with this.
Yes, sure.
Wonderful. Yeah, no, we're really shortly we'll get going on it, and we're at a stage now where we're building really optimum, structural design. So, because when you're upgrading the building envelope and you're doing something that can operate year around, then there's opportunity to do much better on all aspects, right? So it's also worth the investment.
Yeah. So I have a couple of questions. One, we don't have to talk about now the cost. And Michael, your solution seems a lot more around an urban entity. Can it be scaled? Like, is there some monitoring that could be done on a smaller village rather than a city?
Yeah. So I think sometimes you guys misunderstand what I'm talking about. I'm talking about using simulation. You don't have to build anything anymore. You can do all of this study, all of this analysis, all of these conversations, simulation space.
By just putting in the data.
Let me finish.
Yes.
And then you can validate what Richard is saying is true.
That's right.
Through a virtualization. You don't have to spend
That's right.
$100,000 building something.
Yeah.
It's science. All science is taking place in simulation.
That's
what
right.
I'm showing you and consistently showing you
Mm-hmm.
is use simulation. Use simulation. Here's the tools. Here's how it's done. But the truth of the matter is, this group isn't in that space. You don't operate like that. So the youth, the 15-year-olds, the 20-year-olds, the 12-year-olds, that's the only space they believe in.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we're going to change the paradigm, then we have to change the delivery system. And so these ideas that the C4 is visiting, I'm showing at a mega scale this is happening. We should be applying it at a micro scale.
That's
which
right.
is what Aubrey is building.
Yeah.
And then we should show the tools are no different. The simulation tool is exactly the same simulation tool.
Yeah.
And if we're going to build something that's sustainable, that's scalable, and that's the big word here, scalable, we have to do it using simulation methodologies.
Yes.
I just
save money.
Don't confuse like I'm big and Aubrey's small. the thinking here is that this is science methodology applied to sustainability.
Yeah.
And we didn't have these tools 10 years ago, I'm telling you.
Right.
Yes, we had a few spot projects, but now all this stuff is totally deployable. It's totally free.
Yeah.
And we can do things completely differently. And I struggle in education to get the educational institutions because they have their fiefdom. Oh no, you need an engineering degree. Oh no, you need a master's degree in mathematics. Oh no, you need a PhD. You don't. That's the truth of the matter. We've changed this whole thing right now.
Yeah.
These 15-year-olds that are in these urban cores, they know that.
Yeah.
They know that there's another way this problem can be solved, but we need to be able to say, okay, look at it. Give us the data. Open the data model.
Yeah.
Let us look at our neighborhood. Let us look at our cycle. Let us understand these problems. And then let's apply these tools to those kinds of problems. And let's look at a different way to solve them. So I don't want to get pigeonholed here into I'm a big guy. I'm only about urban core and urban development.
Yeah.
What I've said repeatedly.
Yes.
And I will keep saying this.
Yeah.
The C40 model.
Yeah.
The 40 cities that are in pilot right now is in pilot because they know that people are migrating to these urban centers. And if those urban centers become more toxic, not less toxic, no matter how many of these agropods we put up, we're sunk. The ship is going down. So we need to address how are we going to transition these big, large urban environments.
Okay.
And that's the C4 conversation for me. That's why I keep going. Does that
okay, Michael.
Does that...
So Michael, let's do this. Are you going to finish your simulation before I build my PyraPOD?
No, I'm not going to build the simulation.
No, I'm talking about simulation.
I cannot afford to do pro bono to do a $40,000 study on
Okay.
something to validate it. I cannot do that. I've
Okay.
told that to Richard numerous times.
Okay.
But it needs to be done
Yeah.
because you need to have partners that are working on that. There's
Yeah.
partners in this conversation that need to come to the table that need to do this kind of work that talks about how these tools work. So
Okay.
I gave
Yeah.
you the tool set. I showed you how the tool set works.
Yeah.
To sit down and put the time in to do it for this parametric solution, then you would have to say, okay, I understand all of these components, and all of these components now are in the simulation. That's not my business model.
Okay.
My-
Okay. I see. I see.
My business model is how do we get a critical mass of students to tell the municipalities we need to have access to this data and we need to do process like this, because those large cities
Okay.
that I'm talking about have to operate with a level of specificity to be able to manage them. And if we don't operate them with that level of specificity, we're not going to be able to manage them. We're just going to keep patching the solution together.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's going to happen.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you for saying that. So Mufadal, my next question is
Yes.
to you directly. Hi.
Hello.
So we want, how interested are you in doing a pilot project to include these concepts and get like a systems solutions that we can replicate, so that instead of having it piecemeal, we can say this is what we did in this village or this town or this city. How interested
Okay.
are you in
I
and that's sort of
have-
out of your farm school.
Correct. I want to answer this question in 3 ways. We have selected 3 countries: Pakistan, Canada, and Uganda. Okay, so if you have got anything to do in Africa, and what I was suggesting just now, and what I want to do based on the last week's discussion and yesterday a 4-hour session with Professor Tony Pereira, and I think Richard was also part of it. What we want to do is this, and Aubrey has already initiated the whole process.
Yeah.
Okay, what we want to do is this, that in these 3 countries, I've identified a site in Karachi, Pakistan Machine Tool Factory, okay, where we can mass produce the components. Okay, because what we are requiring here is not creating one small PyraPOD in the backyard of your home. Like Michael is saying, it's a serious matter. We need to transform cities.
Yeah.
Okay, utilizing this model,
Yeah.
making sure that we don't create waste, and the billions of gallons of water is not thrown away in the ocean and pollutes the ocean, like it is happening in Karachi.
Yeah.
With all the buffalo waste
Mm-hmm.
going into the sea and polluting everything.
Yeah.
So what we want to do is we are ready now to do these things in 3 countries. Okay, now Canada is little cold now, so I have got a site now available in Texas. Dr. Tamara is going to be leading that project in collaboration with Dr. Tony Pereira, and we will be setting up a mass production facility to produce the components and then assemble it. I mean, all the doubts which anybody has in their minds should go in the grave that this system is not going to work. Today, Richard's presentation and Aubrey's presentation is letting us know that just by selling water, you can make tons of money. And all the bottles, plastic bottles, should go down the drain in the graves.
Yeah.
Which
Yes.
is polluting our environment today.
That's right.
So we are ready now, and I think we should put every, how many molecules? 2 trillion, 3 trillion molecules, of water which keeps you alive.
Yeah.
Every molecule should go to work to make sure that this thing gets executed.
Mm-hmm.
And with urgency on war footings.
That's right. Yeah. So
Has
so
to be
we
done.
need to work on all scales. Okay. It's it's
Exactly.
yeah. That's the series is
And I
so
think
so
Aubrey,
critical.
what we need
Yeah.
to do is this.
Yeah.
No, what we need to do is this.
Yeah.
I'm giving you the scale, 200 acres,
Okay.
Pakistan machine tool factory. You produce it. I've got about 50,000 farms in Karachi, in
Okay.
Pakistan.
Well,
so many university campuses are there. So the volumes, we need the volumes basically.
Oh, we have the volume.
Make sure
Yeah.
that we use the IIoT technologies to produce these things with, with agility.
Yeah.
With all proper engineering and designs, okay? And then those components go out and our volunteers and our, Gamba engineers and 2 billion mothers can go and start assembling it. And I love, Richard's, Michael's clarification today that don't need any degrees to really learn these things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, a mother can do it. A
So,
small child can also do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good. Well,
Let's
then
get all the waste out of the education system and
Okay.
start learning and applying.
Okay. Yeah, that helps
And a
me.
millionaire,
Yeah.
and a millionaire doesn't need degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah, a millionaire can hire maybe all the degree holders out there in the world today.
Okay. Good.
Here we are talking about transforming people into millionaires.
Okay. So now I know
Just in
what
water.
I
Yeah,
should
forget
do.
about food and everything else.
What I
Okay,
should
John,
do.
just
Okay.
in
Good.
water.
Yeah.
Okay, look at the amount of water we can produce.
Yeah. Okay. Now I know
So,
what I should do now.
John, let
Yeah.
me know where and
So,
which
thank you,
sites
Michael.
are, available for us in Canada as well as in Africa.
Yeah.
We want to move forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll work with Lloyd if that's okay, because you've been working with him.
Yeah, sure.
But I mean, I really, like I said, I'm ready to go. I'm getting. I love the fact that you're focusing on women entrepreneurship. I did run a women's entrepreneurship for 5 years.
Sure.
The thing is that if you can get them coordinated and identify where they can go to get that practical application, that's where they start to make money.
In their
So,
community.
Okay.
They don't have to really move out of their
Right.
community.
Well, they can do it
and home
online
also.
if
They
it's
do it right
international.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, international. Everywhere in their community.
Okay,
We will educate them.
Can I-
If I could just
Can I,
say,
for a second
if I
here?
could just add something real quick.
Okay.
Not to cut you off, Lloyd, I just want to say
Go
that
ahead.
in terms of that sustainability conversation and getting the work done, I want Aubrey to know.
Yeah.
I've had direct conversations with the USGBC,
Okay.
United States Green Building Council, about how they're going to approach the Internet of Things on urban agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
What is their pilot projects? How are you going to disseminate this? They're they created LEED. They're $1 billion. They have a lot of political pull. And I've already told them, we need to have legitimate case study projects in these neighborhoods
Yep.
that actually show the students how these technologies work.
Yep.
Okay, and I will tell you, Aubrey, I'm willing to put those kind of hours in, but engineering services as
Yeah.
a professional,
Yeah.
pro bono,
Yeah.
I cannot do those things.
Yes.
But I know they need
I understand.
to get done.
Yeah.
Okay, and
Yeah.
and I'm very committed to this idea of sensor control and what sensor control means and how we build with sensor control.
Yeah.
And I don't believe we have any kind of workforce, even with PhDs, even with master's degrees, that understand half of what's being discussed here today.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And this is why we have a serious environmental problem, because we've broken this thing so far apart.
Yeah.
And I love what Madhapa's saying about the waste cycle within education itself. And we
Yeah.
have to move that out of the way. We have to
Yeah.
move forward with this. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry to cut you off, Lloyd, but I just want to put that out there that
Yeah.
the USGBC
Sure.
is ready to partner up and work on the problem.
Okay. Yeah.
That's great. Actually, I'm also involved in conversations with Canadian GBC as well. Not really directly, but through my colleagues at Brazilian World Institute, who
Okay.
are also professors at local colleges here. But I wanted to just mention to Joan that she might want to actually join us. Mufadal and I have a meeting with Dr. Fahim Kadir He is the vice provost and dean of Queen's University. Next Tuesday, 10 o'clock in the morning, Mufaddal and I are having a conversation with Dr. Kadir, the dean of Queen's University, about the potential for us partnering with Queen's to actually implement some kind of pilot project. So that may be a conversation you'll want to participate in, Joe. Even Richard as well, if you'd like to.
Send me the info. Thanks. Mm-hmm. Are they expecting more than you and Mufaddal, Lloyd, or just the group?
Not at this point. I can always send out a message after that. I'd like to invite a couple more people. I mean, this is a preliminary call as well, and maybe not necessary, but it might be good to have some more people.
Right, and so the idea, just to clarify, the idea is to talk about Queen's University having the campus for the farm school.
Okay, by the way, I have to remind everyone I haven't finished my presentation.
Yeah, okay. We'll get back to that for sure.
Okay? I have an offer to make, okay? The reason we do all this.
I just wanted to mention that I am also in discussions with the mayor of the town of Richard Stouffville.
Lloyd, I know. Sure.
After the presentation, Lloyd, it'll wait after the presentation.
Okay. Yes.
So, as a matter of fact, Aubrey, do you need to start over?
No, not start over. Just to add.
Wait. We have new visitors. Dr. Tamara Omar is here. She's one of our Hayakba global representatives. Also, Mufaddal just mentioned her name, so I want to make sure she's here to represent herself. But also, we have Salim Talbot from Bermuda.
Okay.
And so he will be working with Dr. Tamara.
Yeah.
And so it's important, Aubrey, if you would, your presentation is not that long. If
no.
you just begin at the beginning,
1 minute.
We'll have a better understanding.
1 minute. I'm going to make an offer. Are you ready?
Yeah,
when you are.
I haven't even talked about this offer to Richard Nelson, but I think because of I see what everybody's doing, so I like to make an offer, a free offer. Okay, anything good has to be free, right? I know this is treasures, this worth millions of dollars, but I like to make an offer to whoever in this room, okay? Only to those who participating, who are discussing, okay? I like to make an offer. The offer is, I like to issue, some the licensing, okay? To give you the power to do what Richard and Nelson were doing, okay? So that's the offer, and I hope everybody understand, because we have to do it properly. We have to do it in a way that it's acting fast, and everyone can get the potential. You are excited because what? Because this give you money. This is a opportunity that you will be your own boss. That's what I'm saying. So Richard, what do you say?
You, Aubrey, your presentation.
Well, that's it. My presentation is, I close my presentation with this offer.
I would love to see anyone or everyone in this group engaging. That's really what we're talking about.
Yeah.
We have a process of cooperation.
Yeah.
And believe in these methodology of open source collaboration.
Yeah.
Which means everything's on the table. Everyone can see. Everyone knows what's happening.
Yeah.
And we're sharing.
Yeah.
When we say license, we mean that there's a cooperative team.
That's right.
That are actually working with each other.
Mm-hmm.
We're not to steal from each other, pretend that we're helping and we're taking. No, everyone is working together.
That's
so
right.
We're giving, we're accepting, we're working together.
Yeah.
So people join this collaborative, this cooperation as a way of creating a value system, right?
Yeah.
Which is outside of what the world is doing. The world doesn't cooperate.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to just
yeah.
Plunder.
Yeah.
If you've got something, just take it and run.
Yeah.
And we say no, stay together.
Yes.
Take it.
Yeah.
But let's work together. Let's make a real effort to save the planet.
That's right.
We won't save the planet if we don't work together.
Mm-hmm.
But there has to be structure.
Yeah.
I partner with Aubrey.
Yeah.
I partner with people on the call.
That's right.
Other people also on the call.
Yeah.
So we want to extend that. We want to bring more people in.
That's right.
So what it comes to is that as I'm the inventor of the technology,
yeah,
I made the technology open source.
Mm-hmm.
But we still have to create a community of users. Open source technologies have communities of users and developers.
Yeah.
So you guys become developers, and yes, you have enterprise opportunity.
Yeah.
Of course. Yes, it's worth millions.
Yeah.
Whatever, it's worth billions.
Yeah.
Who knows what it's worth?
Yeah.
More important is yes, livelihood is important. Prosperity is important.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we understand that by coming together to do this, prospering together, we can also save the planet. That's more important.
Yeah.
It's more important than money.
Yeah.
Right? So we need money.
Richard, I have a question. I actually looked at your work you did with a team in 2013 regarding crowd funding.
Yes.
Okay. I looked at that thing, wonderful team of people there. Are they all still active with us, to work with us?
Pretty much everyone who's ever connected with this is involved. There is quite a large community of people. Now we're even extending more.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's surprising how slow this technology goes. Right?
Yeah.
And
that's what my concern is. 2013.
That's why that's why I joined.
For example, Iceland, Norway. There are people. Of course, there's people here in Canada, but when I went over to England in 2000, that's when I actually went open source. Prior to that, I was in a different mode. I was still really trying to get a grip on what is the nature of the problem of humanity. And the nature of the problem is that we want to fight with each other, and we want to battle with nature.
Yeah.
So at that time, I realized that everybody is therefore working in a model of opposition.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what proprietary property,
animosity,
intellectual property is about. Right.
Yeah.
And my life is all about intellectual property, my own intellectual property. How do I protect it? How do I get something from it? When the world, all it wants to do is basically grab it, right? That's our economy is a warfare.
Yeah.
You have to understand the economy that we're all working in is a warfare economy.
Yes.
The best of science is always expropriated for weaponry.
Yeah.
And what we are doing is building livingry, right?
Yeah.
Which is Buckminster Fuller's word, right? And yes, we have forerunners in this way of building a cooperative economy, which is not a warfare economy, right? It's not a competition economy.
Yeah.
It's a helpful economy.
Yeah.
Does it harm me to help you? Can I still make money if you make money?
Yeah.
Of course.
Yes.
But we're taught to be jealous of other people's success, right? We're taught to think we're losing when others succeed. So we have to expand this, Fuller wrote Critical Path and many other, books, and there's many other people like him as well. And Michael can make a reading list, of what it is we're building. So, so what Aubrey is saying is that, I'm partnering with Aubrey. I love to partner with anyone, we work out a deal.
Yeah.
And you get my full support, and you get license.
That's right.
And
do
then
it legally, and make sure that there is no competition.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Everybody is complementing each other.
That's the most. No competition. No conflicts of interest. Yes. No conflicts.
The competition is this: that 2 billion mothers are going to be forming teams to build these communities, and they will be competing with each other with respect to agility.
Yeah.
Who does it fast?
Yeah. For
You know,
that part,
that's
I
a competition
ordain
only. That's the
you
only
to do the work. How is that? Huh?
That's it.
I
We
ordain
will-
you
we
to
have,
do your work.
Richard,
So,
Richard, Aubrey, whomever.
as
Yeah.
the affirmation, we have a lot of discussion to follow through on it. You know, follow through is the key, right?
Yeah.
We can all talk and we don't.
Yeah. Okay.
Excuse me, I've muted everyone to get
Yeah.
their attention.
Yeah, sure.
We have new people that have attended. We have
Yeah.
not yet completed our presentation, but the idea was, Richard, so that we could actually have this first 2 hours to deal with water, and then to transition into an introduction of the agribusiness conference that'll be held next week
Okay.
by Joseph at Moses, who's on the line now. But when Mufadal mentioned that Tamara Omar would be his representative in Houston, I wanted to bring her aboard and to remind all of you that, Richard, this is really just an extension of our Encounter Think Tank from the beginning. These are all part of our team. Sir Bailey was here earlier. As a pod commissioner, I worked out an agreement with him so that he gets 75% of the commission that I would normally get. Because if he has his own contacts, I can establish that same relationship with each of the people on this phone, on this network right now, so we can empower ourselves within the structure that you already provided, Richard. So that's not a problem. But now, if Josephat Mosif, if you can unmute yourself, I'm going to put on the screen here, or I'll type into the chat, CAV Africa is the Center for Africa Volunteers.org. They've created a 2-year project called the 365 Days of Civic Engagement in Kenya. Of course, this was launched before COVID-19, but the idea was to empower the youth in the cities and the rural communities to understand their civic power, but also their ability to hold accountable those politicians that they've previously elected. Agribusiness is the key driver throughout Kenya. So Josephat Moses, if you could unmute yourself and introduce yourself, I would appreciate that.
All right, thank you. And thanks so much, Ambassador Andrew Williams, for the opportunity and also inviting me to this amazing Zoom meeting, a webinar. My name is Josephat Moses Ochieng. I live in Kenya and I'm a Kenyan. I'm presently in Nairobi. I think I've met Mufadal before, especially when I was introducing this project. Now, we are working on a number of programs with Center for Africa Volunteers, an organization that is promoting peace, sustainable development, and the unity of purpose amongst the people of the world. And in connection to that, we are working on economic empowerment and motivating and informing our people to get involved in local business, continental business, and also global business. The world today is defined by so many things. Among the things, especially in sub-Saharan Africa and in the third world countries, is the menace and the disease of joblessness. The surest way that we have seen that every single human being has an opportunity to engage with and to engage in to get out of poverty is getting involved with agriculture. 60% of the African land is arable. Again, 60% of that arable land is not utilized effectively. Now, the question that arises, why is it so? We are seeking and inviting partners from across the world to partner with us and to join hands with us to help us in answering that question, that why is it in a very fertile land, a fertile continent, an arable continent that can typically feed the entire universe, is food insecure. And so on the 21st of this month, we are organizing a global citizenship, and let me just get it right, global citizenship and economic development on agribusiness and commodity exchange forum. The essence of this forum is to sensitize people the importance of getting involved in agriculture, not only to provide food for themselves, not as a subsistence activity, but as a business. This is anchored in the African Union Agenda 2063, and also, the global conversation that is ongoing now. In light with that, we would wish to incorporate and move our people to be involved in agribusiness and international trade from agricultural produce. In that aspect, we are partnering with GeoCargo, which is a company based in Canada that is ready to airlift the produce from Africa, but with particular interest with Kenya and East Africa generally, to airlift all those produces, be it fresh produces, to any destination in the world where they are needed. And so when we're talking about agribusiness and the international supply chain of agribusiness, we are looking at productivity. How do we make our soil to produce more in a small area? And now in that aspect, we are looking for people who are manufacturing fertilizer, pesticides that will enable food that are produced here in the continent of Africa meet the international standards. Of course, that is informed by the report that we've received, that we have farmers who are producing farm produce, yet they cannot be sold internationally because they do not meet international standards. So how do we eliminate that? We are looking for partners who can partner with us to help us in answering that question. If you can invest in that line of safe food production, we welcome you on board. We have post-harvest losses. I'm a farmer. I always produce tomatoes in large quantities sometimes, but when people produce tomatoes around, the law of supply and demand comes to play, and we see it physically. When all of us cannot sell in the market and we cannot preserve what we produce for future use, it means that we have and people experience post-harvest losses in a very big margin. Now, how can we have cooling systems and preservatives that are not harmful to human beings and can help us in preventing and can help farmers in preventing post-harvest losses? We need technology in that. And we are welcoming investors, inventors, innovators with technology to partner with us and also to participate in the forthcoming event of the 21st. Still in the area of transportation of agribusiness is an opportunity that is there. Anybody who can invest in Uganda, people are crying of transportation, air transportation, sea transportation is an open field that we need to network widely to help in curing this menace. In the same, we have policies by the governments and governments that involved. We are working in collaboration and in partnership with the Kenyan government and the government of Barbados, the office of the Prime Minister of Barbados. And the reason as to why we are bringing the government in this, they are the policy makers, and anybody who makes policy depends on people who are really involved in these processes to inform them or to inform their minds so that when they are making policies, they make policies that respond to people's needs, those who are involved in the field. In that way, in that respect, we are looking for a people or for people, technocrats, who can help our government inform policies that will necessitate and will facilitate smooth running of the supply chain of agribusiness from the local level to the international levels. So I know I could be skipping a lot of things because I don't know the time I was allocated to do this presentation, but I think I will pause at that point, and I will depend on all of us in this conference or in this call, and also I will rely heavily on Ambassador to guide me on this conversation and the direction that it should take. Otherwise, I'm very humble.
Well, no problem. We're doing very good on time. We allotted 20 minutes for our first two speakers. You've taken 10 minutes so far. So I put on the screen the webinar program that you'll be hosting next week. If you could just walk us through this, that and allow anyone here questions, I think that will do all we can do today. That's about. Next week's program. So Josephat, if you just go over the program for next week, I have it